anybody scores.
Hey, I
think Celtic are doing this anyway.
Very good evening to you. It's Wednesday night. It's 7:30. Words that I don't normally utter, but hey, never mind. I'm certainly not on here anyway. But you are tuned to the Football Pitch live on YouTube with me, Cammy McDonald, Dennis Newell, and we also have the Falkirk stand. So we will be talking Falkirk tonight. Dale Wilson of the Falkirk stand is with us as well. Just like to say, go ahead, like, subscribe, find us on YouTube, do all that good stuff. We are now well beyond our half century of subscribers. So we're getting right up there now. We're getting closer to my age in terms of subscribers, and pretty soon we'll be pushing towards Dennis's age as well. So go ahead, like, subscribe, tell your pals. They are not going to get football chat like this anywhere else on the internet. Trust me, nobody else would pay for this. That's for sure. But first of all, good evening, Dennis. How are we?
I'm fine, Cammy. Good evening to you. Good evening to Dale. And how was your trips, Cammy? Because obviously we've been dipping our toe in with the podcast while you've been away.
Yeah.
So how was your trip?
Washington was brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Getting over there, getting a real game was brilliant. And it's an experience that I cannot wait to revisit next year. You know, it was just absolutely fantastic. Lanzarote, nice, bright, sunny, superb. I'm burnt to a crisp. Pretty soon, Dennis, I'll be up for a game with one of these Scottish sides here, you know, by that kind of colour, where we get a game pretty shortly, you know what I mean? So we've got that coming with a suntan.
Yep.
Manchester last night, and I'm away again over this weekend before I'm back to work on Monday. So that's it. Dale, good evening. I never got a chance to say hello to yourself.
Good evening. How are you both doing? He's all right, yeah?
Yeah.
Aye, I'm no bad, as you say. Getting back to reality, so that's it. It's always the same. Once the holiday head's over, that's it, you know. So anyway, I'm in a position where I'm hosting a show, and I've been pretty much out of things, as I say, in terms of what's been happening. But I know, Dale, last night, your Falkirk Bairns had a 2-each draw with Hibs, so it's a good enough place to start. How's the first few weeks of the season been for the Bairns?
It's been a bit up and down, to be honest with you. The first game against Dundee United, you're kind of dipping your toe back into the league, a bit back into reality, really. And I think we acquitted ourselves pretty well against them, to be honest with you. I mean, Jim Goodwin's got a really good side there. He's got a side that are up and at you for minute one, to be honest with you. No, like they never leave anything on the pitch, you know what I mean? So I think we done all right that game. Come away with a draw. Quite happy with that. The Livingston game the following week, that was a wee bit of a salient to bear, I'll be honest with you. They seem to have the Indian sign over us. And Davy Martindale he could do anything. I think John McGlynn would blink, to be honest with you, you know what I mean? So we got a bit of a lesson in that game, unfortunately. Obviously, we got Celtic in the Cup, and it wasn't quite the same game as it was before, you know, last season. Mm-hmm. We didn't really fight them as much as I would have liked us to have. But it is what it is, you know. They were always going to score a few goals against us. That's just how it is. We're quite an expansive team, so you know they were just making the space. They were getting the balls into the box, and ultimately they beat us on the day. The next game, I'm trying to think, that was Aberdeen.
The 1-0 victory up there.
I mean, there was an introduction of a couple of the new lads that we got down south, most notably the laddie Wilson, Carell Wilson, his name is. He's a winger. And we've kind of, our wingers have been a bit, I suppose they're kind of learning to adjust to the Premier League. I mean, Alfie Agyeman, he came to us in League One. He was kind of classed as a League One winger, to be perfectly honest with you, back then. Lovely guy, hard-working lad. You know, if you bring him on for the last 20, 25 minutes, he'll run at defences all day, you know. He'll run at defences all the time. He gets called Captain Chaos by our fans because sometimes he doesn't even know what he's got to do himself. He'll trip out the ball. Next minute he'll ping one for about 25 yards into the top of the net. Just one of the guys, typical sort of boy that you would get at our level, like, eh?
Yeah.
Ethan Ross is another winger. He got injured in pre-season, and he's a lad that I would have really liked to have seen. He's the sort of boy that would have VAR doing its thing because he's really quick with the ball at his feet, and he can draw a foul quite well. But he can also get by a man, basically, no bother at all. Calvin Miller, I don't know if you know about Calvin Miller. He came through the Celtic ranks a good number of years ago. He was a wing back then, a left-sided wing back. He then kind of went down south, came back up to Morton, and ultimately we got him in the League One. Now, I never thought for a minute that we would have been able to get a boy of his quality at that level. Because he's a really good player. He came in, done really well League One, really well last year, and he's struggling a wee bit now to adjust to life in the Premier League.
Top league.
Yeah. But I would say as things go, we've been doing all right. We went into last night's game. I'm very much the thing that Hibs didn't really hold a lot of fear for me when we play against them. I know that's maybe a bit of a harsh thing to say, but we've always done pretty well against Hibs. Maybe not much in the league in recent times, because we've not played them in the league, but you know what I mean. But in cup games, we've always been up and at them. And I did have a feeling that last night was definitely going to have lots of goals because obviously Hibs concede quite a lot.
Hibs, that's right, yeah.
We concede quite a lot as well, so it was going to be either 4-0 to them or maybe a 3-2 to us or a 2-2 as it ended up. But the game itself, I mean, we didn't start. We started off pretty well. One of your new lads, we got for Manchester United, Ethan Williams. He's another winger. Tall laddie, quite really good in the ball, excellent with both feet. He came in for the start last night, and we kind of hit them on the break, I think, for about 3 minutes. And the ball went in for the right, and he got a really good touch on the ball. But this keeper, I mean, he made a fantastic save, to be perfectly honest with you. He really did make a good save. And we didn't paper the goal for about 15-20 minutes, but we were keeping the ball in the midfield. And then the thing that we need to learn is pretty much every team that is going to come to our stadium this season in the Premier League is going to allow us to hay the ball because they all know how to play in the break. They all know how to get the ball on the pitch. So we'll need to learn for that. And what actually happened was, you've probably seen it, or you might have no actually, but they got a penalty. This was a bone of contention. If you're the old school kind of like us, you're saying that's never a fucking penalty. It's no way that's a penalty. The ball did hit his hand eventually after it scalped him in the mush, right? So his hand's away up like that. Now the ball's about sort of a yard away from him.
Yeah.
What chance have you got, eh?
No chance.
But the hands up away from his body. That's the thing. But
everybody in the stand where we're sitting, if he had gave the penalty right there, right then, we would have probably taken it. If VAR had intercepted right there, right then, we would have accepted it. But no, what happened was about 3 minutes later, I kid you not, after about 3 or 4 different phases of play, the ball just gets picked up by the referee and his hand goes to his ear and VAR check for penalty. And we all knew it was going to be a penalty because you're not going to send them back for that. They got the penalty. You could say it was undeserved, but we did ride our luck a wee bit. Scott Bain tried to play it for the back, and he made a good save. But we should have probably been 1-0 down at that point anyway. But they got the penalty, they got the goal, and then about sort of 20 minutes later they got another in. And I thought, here we bloody go. We've done all this.
It was going to be your 4-0.
Aye, and then against the run of play, we got a goal just on the stroke of half time. Something that we've not done at all this season, which is ball on the wing and the ball into the box really, really early. The boy Williams, cracking ball right in, and their striker Ross McKeever put the ball in the back of the net, and it sent the fans a bit wild. Like it was really unexpected. So going into half time, you kind of thought, well, we've got a chance now, You move into the second half, and again, first sort of 5-10 minutes, it was easy peasy, and then we got the goal to make it 2 each, and then we dominated after that. We should have really won the game, to be honest with you. But I'll take a 2-2 before the game kicks off.
Yeah.
But we're hoping to, going forward now, if we're playing like that, especially in the second half, you want to be winning the games. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you've made a few changes. You brought in a few players in the transfer window.
Aye.
And Dennis, they seem to be, if not turning a corner, because I don't think they were ever far away in the first place, but Falkirk do look as though they could be a side who will give a few teams in that Premier League something to think about this season, Dennis.
I think they're much of a muchness in relation to. I'm just looking at the league. I wasn't turning away, Del, when you're doing it. I have to look at that. I was listening, but I was just trying to dissect where he really were in the league. I mean, I look at it and having watched them, I watched the game there last night. Was it last night? It seems that
many last night.
Yeah. And I watched it, and I thought to myself, at one point, I thought, well, it's Hibs. You'll get goals because the defence, and I've rattled it a few times on here, and probably stick back for it. That the defence leaks goals every game, every season, and it's not been addressed. So there was always a chance that Falkirk was going to get something out of it. And because of the way he's play, you don't give up.
No,
and I think that's the important thing in this division. That the Premier League has got teams, and much of a muchness is what I'm saying, that if you even look at it from Hibs down in fourth spot, there's every chance you can pick up points. You look at it just now, if you can get a victory, which is going to be a difficult one against Hearts, but if you get 3 points, it takes you up to, if none of the rest compete and win games, it takes you up into third spot. So from my point of view, I think Falkirk is acquitted themselves well. It is a bit of a struggle when you come up for the division below, but I would think that you must be quite happy that they're sitting in 8th spot now. Rather than expectations are probably down. Well, Rangers will be like Hibs and Hearts were last year. They'll eventually climb up the league. There's no question of doubt about it. But if you look at Aberdeen, you wouldn't have thought that Rangers and Aberdeen would be sitting well below you, really. So I think they've had a decent start. Motherwell's sitting just above you, and they've drawn every game. So, no, I don't know what you would think, Del, but I think that if you can stay in that position, you've had a really successful season of 8th spot.
I mean, like behind the scenes, I think John McGlynn and the players, not to kind of call them out on here, but I think they want to be finishing above 10th. They've got aspirations. That I'm not saying directly to go into top 6 because that's for me that's just a wee bit beyond it now. But you never say never. Obviously, you could have a really good season and that's what happens. But one thing we've got probably over quite a number of the teams is the team spirit, the cohesion we've got in that dressing room, and he talks about it all the time. Like for years, we had a disconnect. I talked about it in the last podcast. We had a disconnect between the fans and the players and the management and the board, and collectively, everybody's on the same page now. And you're going to the games. The players, regardless of whether we get beat or we win or we draw, they come here after the game. The captain, who's been Brad Spencer in recent times, he hands one of the captain's armbands over to one of the young kids that's either standing behind the goal or in the main stand, and it's just wee things like that, that bring everybody together. And but having that dressing room where everybody's a leader in there, everybody can talk to each other. Nobody's frightened to kind of pitch in with an idea, and that's one thing about McGlynn. John McGlynn's always happy to listen to what the other boys have got to say, and it stood us in good stead. I mean, he's been there 3 and a bit years now, and it's other than Jim Jeffries, it's probably the most enjoyable period of watching Falkirk that I've ever had, to be honest with you.
Yeah. He's a humble guy, and I think he's probably brought that to the dressing room, that it doesn't look as if there's, you use the word, big time Billy, so there doesn't seem to be that in the dressing room where the players going on the park. And I think he's the type of guy that's got the wealth of experience now to maybe just knock that back if it happens. Falkirk can't afford to have players of that calibre. They need something, and I was going to bring this up anyway. Scott Arfield, he's a great professional to have in the dressing room. I noticed there, looking through the previous games, he's not been in every match.
No.
Has he been injured, or is it just the fact that the manager decides that he's not got to use him all the time?
I think, see, as a supporter, I think we realise that he's not got the legs that he once had to rule that midfield. He's not been getting played as his old position with us was like the main anchor man in the midfield. He would dictate play and all that. He's been getting played in the number 10, or he was when he first came in. He was getting played in that number 10. We play three behind the main striker. He was getting played in that number 10 role, and he's not in the Premier League. He's not got the legs for that.
Yeah.
He started the Aberdeen game on the left of the three up top, more as a kind of to keep a bit of experience, a bit of defensive nous as well. But it didn't really offer much in an attacking sense. The last game against St Mirren, I'll be honest, he was anonymous. He came off quite early in that game. But as a guy around the dressing room, he's just great. And I doubt he'll be asking much in terms of wages, because he always said he would come back to us to finish his playing days. He'll probably obviously go off to Ibrox as an assistant to someday anyway in the next year or two. But as a player for us, and as a boy around the dressing room, he's second to none. Yeah. Second to none.
It's part of that team unity that you need. Because it's definitely going to be a hard season. But as I say, much of muchness, you can very difficult to split how we're only into the season. But there's an element there. I look from Hibs downwards. Maybe with the exception of Rangers, there's every chance. That's assuming Rangers get their act together. There's every chance that you could be sitting in that position well into the season, just be competing the way you are now. And again, I dislike artificial surface, right? And I'm sure players turn up there not like that either. And that's a help. That's a help for you without taking any credit away for the qualities you've got.
The one thing about Falkirk is it's a good artificial surface they have. It's not like your rubbish that you've got at Broadwood or even Rugby Park or whatever, Dennis. I know what you're saying about the artificial surface, and I'm in agreement with you there. But I think the one thing you've got, Dale, is obviously it's a decent, as good as you're going to get in terms of artificial surface. It's a decent artificial surface.
One thing we do with the pitch is it's always watered. I mean, it can be understated, right? But watering the pitch and going over it with the tractor on the daily, right? It's never going to be as true as grass. We always know that, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the best thing since sliced bread, right? But right, at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, watering that pitch, getting the tractor on it, it's a really good pitch. There's a lot of zip on it. There are some pitches out there that are a bit sticky. Livingston's brand new pitch, that's spot on. I think Airdrie's pitch is a really good pitch as well. That's similar to ours. I think Queen of the South is similar as well. But I know players didn't want to. A lot of players didn't want to come and play in it. I know a lot of managers didn't like it, and I know that the Premier League voted that they want it, obviously. But the next year, I think, or the year after, that's when we'll have to rip it up if we're still in the Premier League at the time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the one guy that loved it was Alex Smith. He really loved it. I mean, we're going back a fair bit there, but
that was at Anfield,
I had with him on it was no. And it's strange because he's the older brigade. You would have thought that it's something that he would have been uncertain about his future. No, he loved it. And all the youngsters that was brought through at Falkirk at the time. Yeah, that's he. I think he felt this was the future. We weren't going to have grass by now. But no, I've never liked it. And to be honest, though, it's been when I played on it. It was a way back when it was the first generation of this stuff. All you ended up with for the first 10 years was burn marks and cuts, and it was horrendous. And I know it's improved dramatically, and it's almost nearly at the right level. but you'll never get it the same as grass.
I mean, let's be honest now, there's some of these artificial surfaces we're playing rugby on, Dennis, and that's the thing as well, that a sport like rugby, where it's obviously a contact sport and they're spending most of the time on the deck, if you're doing that, it just does show how much the surfaces have improved for your day, when it was rubbish to play on it and even worse to smoke, it's the grass, the artificial grass nowadays is anything at all like it was then, when it, as you say, Dale, when it was back to the days at Anfield and and Kenilworth Road down in Luton and things like that, and Boundary Park at Oldham, the clubs that first brought in that horrendous plastic surface, it's not that, but it's still no grass. At the end of the day, it still isn't grass, and it's never going to react like grass will do. It's the closest we're going to get.
You smoke it.
But well, that's what I'm saying. It's a lousy smoke as well. We're both done that. And neither of us got a laugh at it, so we're not going. Dale, don't bother you trying as well, mate.
No, it's Rodney done it, and it was Rodney. He didn't like smoking, did he?
Aye, that was it, exactly. No, he did, but that was he's too GC. To hell with. No, we're not going to bother. We're not going to bother. We're the only fools, but Dennis is the horse there. Never mind. Anyway, moving away from Falkirk and looking at Hibs. Dennis, you've mentioned it, and we've had a slating on various aspects of the social medias for the pod. Hibs fans have had a go at you several times over for your criticisms of the defence. At some point in time, they're actually going to have to realise that as a back four, a back three, a back five, whatever they have, they can't defend.
Yeah, but when you make statements like I have done, they just think you're finding fault. I'm not finding fault. I'm stating the case. I haven't managed, no matter what level you want to call it, that basically these defenders, if you're up the terrace and you've never kicked a ball in your life, then you're not going to notice the flaws. With no disrespect to supporters, they're there to support. They're not there to scrutinise it. They want to see their team winning. But I can assure you, you've got flaws in the big boy Rocky, and then you bring Hanley in, who's not getting a game. I mean, he's in and out. I'm not getting into details why he's in and out, but if you just look at it last night, you've got a big boy there. It's a centre half, and he never seems to be in the zone that he's going to go and attack the ball in the air as well as he should. And then last night, it goes across. Well, he's not getting help with his other defenders. He get caught in between last night, and I think it's for the second goal, where he slid down to try and block it, and it actually broke, and the goal was scored from that. And I say to myself, well, maybe if the central defence was better organised, and I looked at this goal about 3 or 4 times, and I said to myself, no, the defence is not in the right position to begin with when they were attacking. And I think if people look at it, he was caught in no man's land because the central defender next to him had let the boy come across him slightly, and he wasn't in the position to take up and make a tackle. And it was a last-ditch tackle. And of course, it's hit under his body, and it's just squeaked to the Falkirk player, and then it went. And I'm saying to myself, well, that's bad defending. If you can't see that as supporters, I'm sorry. But that's what you must look at. You don't look at the good things if you're really starting to give somebody criticism with it. You've really got to look at the flaws that are hindering your team. And that's hindering your team. I've sung the praises of the forwards up there, and you know what I think? They're excellent. But the bottom line is the defence just is not good enough. And it's been ongoing for years. It's not just a matter of months. And no, that's just my thoughts. And I don't think that the defence is tight enough for what you need to be in the Premier League and be successful. Okay, somebody will say, well, we're sitting in 4th. We've won 1, we've drawn the last 4. Right, okay, that's great. Let's see where you are at Christmas. Because that team at this moment in time will struggle to keep the back door shut with the way they're playing just now.
But they're losing 2 goals a game. On average, they're losing 2 goals a game. I mean, these draws that we're talking about, they're 2 each, every one of them. It's 2 each with Falkirk, 2 each with Dundee United. I think there's another couple of, at least one other 2 each draw there. They're losing 2 goals a game. And if Hibs want to push on to get into Europe again next season, they're going to have to tighten that back line. Hanley's not the answer. The big lad Rocky, as we say, he has a few moments of madness, I think his reading of the game is absolutely appalling, which is why they has a few moments of madness, but Hibs are going to have to improve. They're going to have to improve at the back and get something sorted, and it's something David Gray, Dale, really, really does have to sort. You seen him last night. You had a good inkling that Falkirk were going to get goals. They're going to have to improve if they want to push on, not so much to the next level, but at least compete at the same levels as they did do last season.
I would say so. I watch a number of podcasts, right? Obviously, this one's my favourite, Ian.
Of course,
but
that's why we invite you on.
But the lad Steve Cowan that used to play with him back in the 70s and 80s, I think that was it. Aye. Now, Steve Cowan is a very opinionated gentleman, right? He's as opinionated as he was hard on the park. And he was talking about Hibs' defence. In fact, he actually slated us last year for being too slow as well, which I had a bit of a dig at him and then thought to myself, he's kind of spot on what he says.
Aye.
He's an ex-pro. He actually knows what he's talking about. So, but listening to him and the way he was talking about Hibs, it made me kind of watch them a wee bit more sort of intense than what I would normally. And it's very seldom you see a team that plays with a back three playing as expansive as Hibs were playing last night. Normally, a back three, you're going to have that midfield and the back line pretty solid, and you're not going to lose anything through the middle. But and even going down the side, the amount of space we got down the side last night was unreal. But we knew for the second half, get the ball long and win these second balls, because we're winning them every single time we played that ball long. And that's the problem for them, is I think that they switch off in defence. If they didn't win that first header, that's it, right? Okay, well, what do they do?
Yeah.
The defenders back off, the midfielders didn't make that run to try and close the ball down. And we were winning second balls left, right and centre last night. And if we had been on our game, they probably would have lost about 2 or 3 more goals. I'm really not sure what the answer is. I mean, it's maybe going back to a back four and going a wee bit more pragmatic.
What you really got to do though is the boy Cadden and Mulligan, who supposedly should be playing in the channels, right?
Yeah.
Bashiri is not capable of controlling, if you want to take it, that 6-yard box and just outside it if you're playing with a 3. The boy, number 5, Ahora, he doesn't come in to help him out, and that's where you lost the goal. Mm-hmm. And when you does that, Mulligan's got to then come back in. So you make up a 4, at least, by doing that. And then when it tilts and goes the other way, Cadden's got to come in. But when the ball went out to the right-hand channel of Falkirk attacking, Bashiri pushed over because O'Hara had not come in and the midfielder hadn't tracked back well enough. But you could also say the fullback didn't get goal side, allowing Nicky Cadden to go back. And that's the problem. If you're playing with 3, you need 2 wide players that are willing to graft and go back and expand it into at least a 4, if not a 5. And that didn't happen. And that's the problem you got, because Bashira, without giving him too much stick, he's not capable of doing that. Now, you can't just point the finger at one guy all the time and say, well, he's not fit for purpose there. I said that handling him would really worry me if I had to watch the 2 of them as the central defence for Hibs this year. And I still say the same thing, because they're not good enough to be stopping the goals that's going to happen in the Premier League if they keep playing the same way. It's just fairly straightforward that you've got to be covering for him. He's not the worst in the world, but he's not good enough for the Premier League to be getting you up there challenging for the big boys.
He's supposed to be the man that goes in to make that extra man in the midfield, because he's no bad on the ball. When he gets his foot on the ball and there's nobody about him, he's actually. But so am I. So are you. So
that's right.
But he's supposed to be that. For what I can gather and for what I've seen in games, he's supposed to be the man that is that extra man that steps into midfield to shore them up there. And it's like I don't think he can. He either doesn't follow instructions or he's just not good enough to do that. But it's what chances he got. I mean, the thing is, David Gray's an ex-defender. It's when John Hughes was with us, he was an ex-defender, and we used to lose loads of goals. So.
Aye.
The thing is, you if you've signed Hanley, you've got to decide, is he there just as a jersey filler, or is he going to come in there and contribute? Now, last night in that game, if you're looking at two big guys in the central defence, just kill and dispatch, then they're the two guys for you, right? But when you expose them, they're found out. And Hanley can be the same. So if you were going to play them, which would be totally against my ways of playing, Bashiri and Hanley together, well, surely with the strength they've got, it's two big guys, and you make sure that they're controlling that 18-yard box, then fine. But if you look at the first goal last night that they lost, Bashiri was on the edge of the 18-yard box at the opposite side of where the ball come in from.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what were you really contributing to there when you've got midfielders and a wing back and a full back that could have been there, and you get yourself into that centre half position of being in the penalty spot? He was nowhere near that. And I look, and I'm not blaming him for that, but you've got to have somebody that's a leader in the park to be able to get players into a position that they do the job. If he doesn't know how to be a central defender, then somebody's got to help him. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah, I think if they do their homework on us last night, right, we play with one up top, right? Simple as that.
Yeah.
Ross McKeever, for a guy who's 6 foot, he's just 6 foot. He wins every header. He wins a flick-ons. He'll win every header, right? He's not the fastest in the world, and he's not a natural finisher, as has been seen sort of regularly. But what he does do, if we're playing it through the channels, he links up play really, really well with the wingers. He's done that for minute one coming into Falkirk. They, if they'd done their homework, I know it's maybe a change of tact for the Hibs manager, but if they maybe went with a 4 at the back and had another deep line midfielder there, that first goal probably doesn't happen, because that midfielder's already in the zone of sort of right coming in to make themselves an extra defender. And it just we're playing the 4, you're going to be naturally stopping the crosses coming in, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen last night. I'm obviously more than happy that it didn't happen, but you as a Hibs supporter, I can imagine they'll be quite peeved with how things are kind of going now.
You've got to ask it, why as a Hibs fan, why are we losing the amount of goals we're losing to the way we're losing them? And I expressed that and get pelters for it. Now, I don't know if they can maybe look closer at how their defence is matching up and what's causing it. Now, remember, you can blame defence all day long, but there's a point somewhere further up the park that the move breaks down or a ball's given away. So it's easy to just point the finger at defenders, no question of doubt about that. But it's the same as a goalkeeper. If he makes a blunder, he gets penalised for it. It seems to be sometimes if a centre forward or even a midfielder gives the ball away, they don't get the same punishment really. With people picking faults with them. So but having said that, Hibs definitely need to start looking seriously at why they're leaking so many goals. And I put it down to the fact of what I've just rabbited on about for 5 minutes there.
Second poorest defence in the Premier League just now, as things stand, But another result last night at Tannadice, it finished in United 2, Aberdeen 0, a result which puts Dundee United third in the table, and the Dons, we touched on it earlier on, anchored at the bottom. 5 games, 7 goals conceded, but the most damning thing is, Dennis, they have not scored a goal in the league this season. So that's for a side who last season started off so very well, and for our Scottish Cup holders, Aberdeen have been a massive disappointment this season.
Well, you look at it, and you look what happened last year with Aberdeen going in that run, and then everything just falling apart. And I've still yet to think, well, what causes that when your run has been one extreme to the other?
Yeah.
And you say, well, you really need to start having mind games, or is there a physical presence there that maybe the manager's too nice and players are letting him down and he's not pulling them up strongly enough for it? I don't mean hairdryer treatment, but just maybe an attitude that say, look, you're not going to be here if you can't do the gig. Or are the right players been signed to replace the ones that left? But as you rightly say, they've got 1 point for 5 games. Even Aberdeen in its worst would never have been like that. Now, Jimmy Halen, how he is still in the job, I'm very much surprised. And I think Aberdeen made a statement the other day there that they were going to try and get through this, and sacking the manager wasn't the answer. I like that idea.
Yeah.
But I don't know if in this case that is the right idea, because I think he's taken them as far as he can, and he's done a magnificent job. He won the Scottish Cup, and he also had a great half of the season. But how can he turn that round now? Because there's no sign or indication of improvement. I've watched them, and I don't see a team that... It doesn't enthrall me to go and watch too much of them, because they just don't seem to offer much. And they're very disappointing. And it's always good in Scotland to have a good Aberdeen team. There's no question of doubt about it. You just need to look back to the days of old even, and even as much far as last season at this time, when they were going great guns. So, it's good to have a good Aberdeen team. But at this moment in time, they're shambolic, and I can't see how they're going to change it, especially after that result against Dundee United. That was a game I felt, if they're really going to make some inroads, they really need to do it against a good Dundee United team just now. And it never happened. So they're at the bottom, and I think they'll stay at the bottom. And changes might need to be made sooner rather than later if they want to pick up and start to climb the league.
Yeah. Dale, obviously, you've mentioned already this is your favourite podcast, so I'm sure when you listen to his last season, you'll have heard us talking about David Gray was under pressure, Stephen A. Smith was under pressure at this time of the year last season. Hibs stuck with David Gray, and that brought dividends towards the end of the season. Obviously, Hearts get rid of Naismith, and then obviously the guy after that, whose name escapes me at the moment, I'm afraid, sorry. That's it. So when Critchley came in, they get rid of him as well, and they've obviously made a couple of changes. As Dennis says, he likes to see a club sticking with a manager if it's the right decision. But Thielen is under no end of pressure up there at Aberdeen for sure, And what's your own thoughts? Could he be the first, or will he be the first managerial casualty in the Premier League this season? Or will Aberdeen, true to their word, stick by him?
It is a hard one to when you look at it. I mean, Thielen, he's got a wee bit of credit in the bank, which they're probably in an overdraft now, to be honest with you, right? You look at Davy Gray last year. Davy Gray is Sir Davy Gray and all that, so he had a lot of credit in the bank, and that allowed him to get through the period that it was at. Looking at parallels between the two teams at the same points, I think Hibs at least had the wee shoots that you thought, things are about to improve. And then it was that one game, I think they drew 3 each, and then they kicked on. But they were scoring goals. Aberdeen didn't even look like scoring goals. I mean,
no.
Against us, they had a couple of chances, yes, but I think Thielen is probably I would imagine he'll be the first one to leave. I think there's not really much else you can sort of say for that, and I can't even think anybody that would in the short term would be able to come in. They were talking about Peter leaving last night when I was sitting at the game last night. A couple of the boys were talking about Peter leaving, who is this? I think he's the assistant, and every time he's came in, they've done about sort of 3 or 4 games where they've not lost any games.
Aye.
But if he's part of that backroom staff, then you've got to say maybe you need to get rid of the lot of them, start afresh. But it's hard when you've spent about nearly 5 or 6 million quid on this squad. 23 players, I think they've bought. Or brought in, certainly.
But if we're trying to dissect Hibs there, and we would improve it, and there's no way that I could look at Aberdeen and do the same, because there's no one shining that you would actually say, they just need this, they just need that. Mm-hmm. The whole pack needs shuffled, and it needs somebody to come in that is able to grab the whole team together and realise, look, you came here, you had potential, money's been spent on you, you're here to play football, now you start playing football. And the bottom line is that's not happening. Now, whether the manager is too nice, because I think he sounds like a real gentleman with great success last year, but it's not happening anymore. And maybe he needs help. maybe he needs somebody to bring somebody in just to kickstart them, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't say this disparagingly at all, Dylan. It's not because you're here, but you're looking at Aberdeen side who couldn't manage a goal against Falkirk, you know, and as you've said yourself,
exactly.
You're a side who's leaking goals, you know. Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
It does just show the difficulties that they're in, you know. If you can't score against one of the league's poorest defences in the shape of Falkirk, what chance do you have, you know, and at home, by the way. Okay, they finished the game with 10 men, but I mean, as you say, they didn't really lay a glove on Falkirk that entire game for what I saw, you know.
Two wins we've had there in 6 to 8 years, right? 1957 was the last one up until I think it was 2010, the season we went down. We got a win that year, and that's like I say, 68 years, 2 wins there. We've never had a good record there, and I'll be honest with you, I would have went up my yes, I would have took a draw for there, but Aberdeen at home against us, we've never really done well there, and you know. Obviously, the sending off kind of helped. Of course, it did. But even after the 2 or 3 chances that they had, they were a bit powder puff, unfortunately. And you know, they've brought in the boy Nisbet, and Nisbet will get you goals, but you need to feed them. You know, and if you're not giving them the chances, and you're playing, you know, one up against a team that are playing with 3 at the back, say, and that are good at playing with 3 at the back, Dundee United generally, St Mirren's and what have you. They're all well drilled. I mean, you know, you just look at that. Dundee United's team is obviously well drilled. They've got a manager who, you know, in the same vein as St Mirren. I think those 2 teams are going to be there or thereabouts for each other. I think they'll be nip and tuck. They'll be 6th and 5th all the way through, I would imagine.
It seems to be for them,
And but with Aberdeen, it's would you stick or twist, or you know, or you just throw the cards in the bucket? You know what I mean?
That's exactly
difficult, really difficult.
But anyway, finally, before we go, we'll look at Europe very, very quickly, Dennis. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers both dropped into their consolation tournaments. Yeah. Celtic currently just 7 minutes into that game against Crvenza, Red Star Belgrade. Well, let's just stick with that one. Are currently nothing each. And Rangers tomorrow, again, Belgian opposition, probably filling the Rangers support with a lot of fear, rather than they're up against Genk, who I think they've actually previously beaten. But how do you see these 2 games going, guys?
The Rangers game, I think, it's a proverbial season-defining game for Martin. I think he got that win against Hibs last week, and by all accounts, he played pretty well in the second half, especially against Hibs. But going into that game, if they win that game, that's 2 games you've won in the trot. Potentially, you know, you're going to be playing. I think they're playing Livingston on Saturday as well. So, you know, it gives you a chance to get a wee run together. But you know, the players need to go out and do the job for them, and obviously their fans need to be on their side as well. I would imagine there'll not be as many, you know, folks standing outside getting it loudy this time. I think that with it being a European, I would be surprised, but European game, you'd think they'll be right up for it and be with the manager for that game. But it is that game's definitely season defining. I think if Rangers get beat there, I think Martin, you know, unless Colleen gets his arse out the door, he might be away. With Celtic, you know, they played well against Partick, and I think was it Sunday they played
Sunday, 4-0.
But you know, Partick Thistle to Red Star Belgrade, it's a bit of a step up. So it's all about, you know, if Maeda's getting his, I don't know if Maeda started tonight or not.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he started.
So if he's up for it and he's wanting to, you know, if he's wanting his move away in January, say, banging a few goals, do the job for them. They're the new winger that they've got, who seems to be, everybody's talking about him now. So much so that I forgot his blooming name, but he played on Sunday there. But you know, if they can get the ball out wide, get it into the channels, then they've got a chance. But it's whether all these players are up for it, and it's whether Brendan Rodgers is, you know, there's a lot of things going behind the scenes.
He seems interested, does he?
No,
he really doesn't.
No.
There's not a great deal coming out of Celtic Park just now at all, you know, and you just wonder, you know, the atmosphere at Celtic and Rangers is It definitely slaps a negativity, Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, I've rattled my gums about
The Rangers will know.
I don't know how long, because of the way that the Celtic supporters seem to get shortchanged. There seems to be, it's okay, as long as we beat Rangers, that's all that matters. I'm sorry, it goes beyond that. You're meant to entertain the support, and you've not been doing that because you've been scrimping and scraping with money that is there. You've lost £40 million. Nobody seems to have got the sack for that. Imagine in anybody's company, you, not individually, but as a group, lost £40 million. Heads would roll. And they would roll. £40 million. I'll keep repeating it because £40 million is a massive amount of money. Now, if you had to get that £40 million, only simply by keeping Kyogo, or they're rattling their gums about the fact of the young lad that come in there and actually played. I'm trying to think who he was now. He played in the wing with Celtic. What was his name? No, it's gone from me. But anyway, he comes in and they're saying, oh, if he was there now, it would have made a difference. Well, I don't know if it would have. But the bottom line is Celtic should still have been in the Champions League. And that, to me, is dreadful, because that is a total blunder by the club, penny pinching. And I'm not surprised that the supporters have been up in arms, but it's taken a long while for the penny to drop, that they're being cheated out of what they should be given every week. Celtic's a massive club, the same as Rangers are on the world football stage, and the supporters deserve better. And it doesn't matter what we actually think, but domestically, I think now that there's an element there where it'll take a wee while for Rangers if they do catch up with American owners with Celtic. But Celtic just look as if they say, well, we'll keep looking over our shoulder. And when they start to be catching up with us in the motorway and putting it into fourth gear, well, we'll just put it into another gear and get above them because we've got the money. Right? That's the wrong way to be approaching this. They should be looking after the supporters and never mind what Rangers are doing.
We saw how it was the opposite way about.
That's the problem I've got with Celtic. They are a poor team. I've said it repeatedly on here. And all my life, this is the worst Old Firm teams I have seen in record. And I don't know where it's going to change, because Celtic have got players that don't play, that have spent maximum money on. So you've got to question not just the board, you've got to question the manager and allowing the players to come in. So for me, it's still nothing each. I think if Celtic managed to get a result out of this game, it's great for them. The other side of the town, Ibrox, I don't think that beating Hibs in the League Cup was any big success. I think it's got them out of jail for another week. I don't think they will progress in this game tomorrow night. I think although Russell Martin's actually started to believe his own press by saying that this is a good team. He thinks that this has got the makings of a good team, the players that he's signed. Now, it's the only place in the world that you can walk into a football club and not hit the ground running. What were you doing before you joined Rangers? Were you standing at a street corner and you weren't fit? Why does he need players to bed in? If he needs them to bed in and you've spent money, you've bought the wrong player. Get a player in. Don't have him on the bench. Get him out in the park and let's see what he's capable of. The players he's signed, there's only been one wee winger on the left-hand side, and he's dipped. He come in, 2-game wonder, and after that, can't even remember his name. So, yeah, that's it. But the bottom line is that there's nobody there that has impressed me to the level that they're going to get to the next level. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in Europe tomorrow night with them. Celtic could scramble a result out of this, but it wouldn't surprise me if, again, they flop too. And I hate being doom and gloom with the Old Firm because, listen, that's our bread and butter in Scotland. If they're not playing well, the rest don't play well. And it might sound a bit silly. How do you work that out? Because when people like Falkirk go and play Celtic, they know they're at the top of their game and they'll maybe go and have a go or they'll try and defend well or whatever they have to do. But there's an expectation there that these are two massive clubs. Now, if I'm a manager in the Premier League, I would be going, hey, they're at their worst. Let's go and no start to... Yeah, let's not look at the points that we have said, right, we'll lose them, because you would go and look at what games you can win, what games you can draw, And I'll tell you what, the Old Firm was always games that you would say, no, forget that, really. No, I'll tell you what, the tick boxes are now open for that. You can get in there and start to think, if you've got anything about you, let's have a go at this lot, because they're poor. Never mind too much spent. Different with Partick Thistle. There's a different level there, and they've done okay. So you've really got to try and maybe defend or sit off a little bit. But when you're in the Premier League, you're a step above, and you should not be frightened of the Old Firm at this moment in time. So how they'll go in Europe, time will only tell. Still nothing each. So I'm hoping it's not the kiss of death. I come off and Celtic's lost a goal and Rangers go and do the same. I want to see both clubs progressing in Europe, because you know what? It's extra games for us over the winter that we can be sitting here enjoying, rather than going, oh, there's another mistake, another goal.
Yeah. Well, we did enjoy it last season, certainly. You know, the Old Firms both acquitted themselves pretty well in Europe. Obviously, we were still in Europe well into the new year. It's bloody shocking that, and I don't disagree with you, Dale, that you're talking about this could potentially be a season-defining moment for the new Rangers manager. You know, what happens against Genk of Belgium, you know. But we shall sit and see, and we shall be discussing that next week.
Will the two managers, well, I don't think Brendan Rodgers will be away, but will the two managers be facing up against each other when they actually come up against each other in the League Cup semi-final, which is the 2nd of November? And then the other tie, of course, is a good tie as well, Motherwell and St Mirren. And I like that, because I think that's great, the way that the draw has been made for this. Because I would not, at this moment in time, like to see an Old Firm final. Do you know why? Because one of them is no good enough to play in it, right? So I'm delighted Motherwell or St Mirren's going to get a crack at it. I really am. It's a leveller.
That's a contrast of styles with Motherwell and St Mirren as well, because Motherwell are, you know, from what I've seen this year, are a completely different animal on that park. I mean, they've drew a lot of games, but they play a really good style of football, and St Mirren are, you know, what St Mirren are.
Well, I'll put my money on a Rangers Motherwell final. There you are.
There you go. I'd probably go Celtic St Mirren, to be honest with you, but just to be the, you know, the other side of the coin.
We'll sit and we'll find out, as Dennis says, on the 2nd of November. But listen, guys, it's been strange doing these shows midweek and during the week, and obviously whatever else, you know, strange times as well. So thanks to everyone who's obviously stopped by us over this last 3 or 4 weeks. We are back next week to our normal time of Friday night at 7 o'clock, but the man who's at the bottom of the screen will be missing, but we'll have a reliable couple of replacements for him. Dennis, you enjoy yourself next Friday evening. But to everyone else, I would like to say thank you very, very much, as I say, for listening. Go ahead, go ahead, subscribe, tell your pals. It really does help us. We're actually starting to get on that YouTube algorithm now, so if you go ahead and like and subscribe, we'll get a better chance of getting up that algorithm with YouTube. But thanks very much, as you say. And on you go, Dennis.
That includes the Hibs supporters.
Aye.
You'll miss his rants next week, but the following week, I'm quite sure he'll be back on about your defence. Craig Brown will join us next week. It remains to be seen who else will be on the panel next week, but certainly we will have Craig Brown joining us next Friday. But as I say, go ahead, like, subscribe after you've watched Celtic in Europe tonight, obviously. Good night to you all. Thanks very much to Dennis. Thanks very much to Dale Wilson as well for stepping in tonight. It wasn't me in the bite this morning, Dale. I can trust you on that one. Good night.
Cheers.